Hello and welcome to Philosophical Solutions to Modern Problems. We will examine the ways in which both contemporary and ancient philosophers can support our search for wisdom. We are talking about 5 major problems today. Let's start with the first. We don't ask big questions. Which philosopher is best suited to address this problem?
Personally, I think Mary Migley is extremely pertinent in this context, specifically in her essay that we discussed in class, which is What is Philosophy For? According to her, philosophy is important because it poses the fundamental questions that have an impact on how we live each day. She highlights, for example, how philosophical inquiry then challenges our presumptions on life, society, and just our place in it. If we don't pose these important questions, our thinking then can remain undeveloped.
And why is Midgley's approach better than the others?
Even though other philosophers like Plato and his allegory of the cave also touch on the significance of searching for the truth, she specifically focuses on the necessity of the wide-ranging and approachable philosophical inquiry within our daily life. Her concepts are useful for modern people who might then be afraid to think abstractively.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. We are vulnerable to errors of common sense. Who can guide us through this problem?
The key in this case is gotta be Sextus Empiricus in his outline of Pyrrhonism. He encourages skepticism, challenging what we consider to be common sense. Sextus demonstrates how our common beliefs are frequently based on shaky premises, and encourages us to put outside our judgment to prevent adopting dogmatic viewpoints.
Great. Why is Empiricus better for this than someone like James or Epictetus?
In certain circumstances, you could say that William James does promote belief in his will to believe, but Sextus' extreme skepticism goes into more detail in undermining these presumptions. His approach is more comprehensive. It avoids the common sense errors by recommending holding off to making certain decisions until we reach full clarity.
Okay, now moving on to the next. We are mentally confused. Which philosopher offers the best solution to mental confusion?
I'm gonna go with Plato for this one. He offers a metaphor for how we can go from being confused to being clear within his allegory of the cave. He uses this example to show how most people are ignorant and mistake shadows for reality. Through this logic, we can rise above the confusion, much like the prisoners who come out of the cave to see the world outside, and create a more philosophical reflection.
I think I would agree with you on that one. And how would you say he compares to the other philosophers on this issue?
I do think that Epictetus also stresses the importance of clarity and thought, but Plato's allegory of the cave gives a great and well-rounded metaphor that demonstrates the transformational potential of knowledge and what it can give us, and the importance of introspection. It's not just about controlling confusion, but it's about fully escaping the illusion that we might be living in.
Okay. Now moving on to the next. We have muddled ideas about what makes us happy. Who helps us best understand happiness?
I'm gonna say that Epictetus can best help us understand happiness. In discourses, he emphasizes how our responses to circumstances can determine our level of happiness, and rather than just the circumstances themselves. He explains that accepting the things outside of our control and concentrating on our own virtues and mental attitudes are the path to true happiness.
Definitely. Now, why choose Epictetus over other thinkers like James or Midgley?
In The Will to Believe, James does address belief and action, but he doesn't specifically address happiness. On the other hand, the Stoic mindset and framework that Epictetus developed provides a useful philosophy that focuses on how we can control our internal states to then achieve happiness.
Great. Now moving on to our final problem, which is we panic and lose perspective. Which philosopher provides the best tools for staying calm under pressure?
For this one, I'm gonna say William James. In The Will to Believe, he gives a great framework for holding on to belief in the face of uncertainty. He says that instead of freaking out when we're faced with uncertainty, we should give ourselves permission to take a leap of faith. His way of thinking places a strong emphasis on the necessity and the importance of remaining composed when we are faced with uncertainty.
Now for my last question, how does James compare to someone like Sextus Empiricus on this issue?
When it comes to uncertainty, Sextus would advise on skepticism, but James agrees that there are situations when action is still required even in the absence of certainty. His way of thinking encourages us to take bold action rather than just letting hesitation stop us, which can then help avoid panic.
Amazing. Well, that wraps up our interview of how philosophy can make us wiser. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.